So the story in this video is going to be divided into two parts. Firstly, we're going over what Elliotte Friedman said when he was invited over onto WGR 550 radio about Jack Eichel. One of the guys in the Buffalo Sabres who, as we noted in the previous video about the Buffalo Sabres talking about Taylor Hall, has not really been all too great on the 5-on-5 goal production side of things. Now, in that video, we spoke about how Taylor Hall could all of a sudden change the narrative behind him and his play with one game against the Washington Capitals, because that game happened after we recorded that video, and that game happened yesterday. And you know what? We have some other stuff to talk about when it comes to Sabres fans after what was an eventual Buffalo loss, 3-1 in that game against Washington, a game so casual for Buffalo that Tom Wilson scored a shorthanded goal, and later on he had a breakaway and he kind of dropped it back, trying off some EASHL kind of stuff over there. Yeah, got really ugly for the Sabres. But yesterday on WGR 550, Elliotte Friedman, when visiting as a guest caller, was asked about whether or not he sees the possibility of the Sabres trading Jack Eichel. He said yes. Well, here's the thing, the quote reads, "Obviously, the way the Sabres came back out of the break with two really tough losses has started the talk about what could be happening. Look, we know this was something that came up last summer, and I don't know if it was ever close. The feeling I've always had is that Buffalo knew that Eichel was unhappy. They asked Eichel to take a big step last year, and he really did. We talked about how much of a step that Eichel took last year, and still, when it came to team success, it just didn't really go anywhere. And now you look at where it is this year, you know he's going to be frustrated, and there were conversations last year. And what I was told was the Sabres just said, we're not ready to do this. Teams made offers. It was communicated that he was restless. I don't think he ever asked for a trade. But he was restless, and teams knew it. And the Sabres took some offers and said, we're not ready to do this." Friedman then named New York and LA as two teams that could make a package large enough to acquire Jack Eichel. And now that Friedman came out here and dropped a bomb on the radio, and now that the Buffalo Sabres are in this weird little skid where they can't score any goals, I think something like Austin Matthews has more goals than the Sabres have 5-on-5 goals this year, which is absolutely crazy to me. Buffalo fans, NHL fans, and fans just all across the sporting world have been speculating what could be going on with the Buffalo Sabres in a potential trade scenario for a guy in Jack Eichel playing for the worst team in the East Division, who is very good, who is very competitive, who is a franchise caliber player, but who just hasn't been getting it done. We saw all this stuff with the Rangers and the Kings, and we had Canucks fans and Habs fans coming out with trade proposals and ideas as to what it would take. And I'll say this right here, we're not even going to get into any of that discussion in this video, but I will say, you have to overpay for a guy like Eichel. Sure, as Reese Jessop put it on Twitter, it's difficult to lose a trade when you are acquiring Jack Eichel. But in order to make a trade that the Sabres would actually say yes to, you are giving up, at the very least, one of your best roster players already today, your best prospect in the system, 2 first-round picks, and other stuff as well, because Jack Eichel is one of those guys that you overpay for. That's it, plain and simple. And now that the Sabres are doing really poorly again, I mean, this is their 4th regulation loss in a row now, isn't it? The trade talk is just going to keep on piling up and up and up. And the problem is, for the Sabres, they have a really tightly packed schedule following this loss to the Capitals. It's a stretch of like 18 games in 30 days or something like that, which is a lot of hockey to be played. So for a team that is tired, a team that's already losing, and the team that's probably going to start losing a little bit more because they're going to be even more tired, the question all of a sudden becomes, how does this affect Jack Eichel, his ability to play, his psyche towards the team, and the willingness that he would have towards being traded? Well, let's not talk about that any further. Let's go ahead and talk about the fan sentiment, because yesterday after the loss against Washington, there were a few videos, a few clips online of the Sabres interviewing their head coach Ralph Krueger, and a few other interviews of other people that followed that were involved with the Sabres' loss. And it's really interesting because if you go over to the social media replies of the Buffalo Sabres social media pages and you see how Sabres fans are reacting, there are a lot of people saying that Eichel should be traded, which really, honestly, kind of surprised me because I was like, wow, if you guys are out there watching a team that is causing a lot of Sabres fans to really just be down there in the dumps emotionally speaking, because that's been happening with this team, they've been playing so poorly, and you're out there saying, oh, we got to trade our best player now. I was really interested in that. I was like, okay, why? So I tried to do a little bit more digging, check out what the fan sentiment is about these players, and you wouldn't believe the amount of Sabres fans I've been seeing on my timeline and my social media platforms just talking about how Jack Eichel has given up on the team. The effort. There's a reason the guy hasn't scored any goals at 5-on-5 this season, and it's not because of a lack of skill. Sabres fans have been clamoring for the return of Dylan Cozens, a guy who puts work out there, who actually goes out there and tries, because that's the kind of effort Buffalo Sabres fans have been asking for from this hockey team. So, with the way things have gone now, with Jack Eichel being in the trade block because Elliotte Friedman laid the bomb that, yeah, I could honestly see an Eichel trade going down, and with the fan sentiment shifting the other way towards their captain, it makes for a very, very interesting story to tell, doesn't it? The Sabres aren't really looking towards getting any better in the short-term future. Not unless Skinner becomes 40-goal Skinner again, Taylor Hall starts potting in goals left and right, Stahl becomes the Eric Stahl of before with Minnesota, and Eichel becomes the Eichel we know he can be. The Sabres aren't really going to improve until those things start to come true to fruition once again. And because that's probably not going to happen anytime in the next few weeks, especially with the overloaded schedule, my mind starts churning and I start thinking about, okay, there are other teams out there. New York, LA are two laid out by Friedman. Who knows if there are other rebuilding teams that could try to go out there and make a package for the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres are probably going to get a high draft pick, and this year's draft is so spread out that if it's a first overall pick or a 7th overall pick, you might be able to get some equal value there. So the Sabres, are they still going to go towards rebuild mode, especially considering the tribulations they are still going through after what appears to have been like 8 years of tribulations and rebuilding and all that? When was the last time they made the playoffs? 2011 against Philadelphia, where they lost in the first round? Was that it? Am I correct there? But regardless, talk to me in the comments down below if you are a Sabres fan. What's your opinion on Jack Eichel? Not the guy who is out there on the trade block, but the guy that is playing for your hockey team. Is it true what I've been seeing? Because I've been seeing an overwhelming amount of criticism of Jack Eichel from Sabres fans, so much to the point that many are asking for him to actually be moved, because if his heart is no longer in Buffalo, then you might as well just get somebody in the lineup whose heart is. Like a Dylan Cozens, or what a return could provide. Who knows? Talk to me in the comments what you think about this video. I hope you enjoyed. Such as that, Trolls 99. And bye.